It's hot. It's middle of rush hour traffic. You got people like that driving like dummies. This chick over here. Yeah, there you go. That's good. Interesting. Okay. And you got chicks like that. That's great. Alright everybody, I'm here with my buddy Shohabe. He is kind enough to let me take out his beautiful R6. Tell me a little bit about the bike. What year is it?
It's a 2014 Yamaha YZF R6.
When did you get the bike?
Bought it about a year and a half ago.
Okay. What have you done to the bike so far as modifications?
I did actually a lot ever since I bought the bike. First things first, I did the grips, the levers, frame sliders, deleted the muffler box, put a white pipe on it, license plate relocator, custom turn signals, custom taillight. That's about it. HIDs for the front custom turn signals.
Looks really clean.
Yes.
Your first bike?
No, this is my second bike.
What was your first bike?
My first was a 2000 Suzuki Katana.
Okay, awesome. Well, I'm going to let Shohabe get back to work because he was kind enough to take a little bit of time out of his day, and he's going to let me review this gorgeous, gorgeous bike. This should be very exciting. So, Shohabe, I really appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
And, oh, I will. And I'll bring it back in one piece, I promise.
You see, every time that beat go, I need you to shake that thing good. Yeah, every time that beat go, every time that beat go, I need you to break that thing, girl. Every time that beat go, won't you break it down?
All right. And we are off. Hello everyone, and thank you all for joining me today. So those of you who do not know me, my name is Ducati Kid, and I own a 2012 Ducati 848 Evo. Kind of been branching out, trying to do reviews on bikes, and luckily today my good friend Shohabe is letting me take out his beautiful 2014 Yamaha R6. He has a little bit done to the bike, you know, slip-on, levers, you know, upgraded headlight, taillights, you know, all that jazz. So without further ado, let's just get straight down to it. I'm going to try to cover everything on this bike that a general review would cover. I'm going to go over kind of riding position, we're going to go over comfort, practicality. Keep in mind, obviously it's a motorcycle. We'll go with practicality of a motorcycle. As far as the starter bike and everything like that, like if it's a good first bike, like would I recommend it for a first time rider, and kind of so on and so forth, and we'll just kind of build off from there. So to start right off the bat, I like to kind of start with comfort. So comparing it to other bikes that I've ridden, which aren't too many. I mean, I have, you know, FC09, FC07, Ducati Monster, Ducati 848, Honda CBR, and maybe one or two others in there. It's fairly comfortable. It's definitely a forward riding bike. It's not an upright bike, but you can sit fairly upright on it comfortably. The seat is nice and big. You know, I can slide way back or I can scoot way up. I prefer to kind of hug the tank. So that's really nice. It's definitely a comfortable bike. These aftermarket levers are great. I think this one needs to be tightened a little bit. Feels a little loose. It turns nice and it handles nice, and it's very it feels very light and very simple. And the other thing I like about it too is that the throttle is not aggressive. You know, if you're gonna be twisting the throttle a little bit, like one of the issues that I have with my Ducati, and I've gotten fairly used to it, is just at lower speeds, you know, when you're in first gear and stuff, the throttle can be incredibly touchy. And on this, it's very nice, very smooth. I like these aftermarket grips; those are great as well. The thing I do like about this, though, is that these mirrors, these are the factory mirrors, and they are pretty incredible. I'm not gonna lie, they're nice and they're stable. I can see everything behind me on both sides, and I don't really have to do any major twisting or turning and do the Macarena to be able to see behind me. That it's very clear, very concise, very large, but they don't look, you know, obnoxious on the bike or funny. which I like. They suit the bike nicely, whereas, you know, some factory mirrors are just not that great. So the cluster, I really like this cluster setup. So we got the nice big analog dial in the middle for our RPMs, and then we have on the left we have our speedo as well as our time, and on the right we got our trip, and then above it we have bike temperature. So I haven't really gotten over 5,000 RPMs yet. However, this exhaust is really not that bad. It's not super droney or anything like that, and I don't feel like I really have to yell over it. If you're doing, you know, cruising through town and stuff like that, you're not really getting up there in the RPM range. It's a nice quiet exhaust system. I do not know what exhaust system it is. I'll make sure I write it here at the bottom. I forgot to check, but this is the exhaust system right here, whatever it says on the bottom. Nice and mean, but not too ricey, which, you know, I like. Unfortunately, with, you know, you find with a lot of the 600 guys that, you know, they'll put some piece of crap on it and it just sounds terrible. This, on the other hand, is sounds very nice. Alright, so I just gave the traffic a little chance to clear here, and I'm going to open it up for you guys so we can hear this exhaust. That sounds good. Oh, I like it. You know, this... You know, that sound really makes me miss my Honda, let me tell you. Obviously, my Honda didn't sound nearly as good as this. This is gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous sounding. I love it. Hearing this and hearing my V-twin, don't get me wrong, I love the sound of my V-twin with my Termi pipes. Like, it sounds amazing. But there's just something about the inline fours on these Jap bikes that they scream with the right exhaust system. They just sound so nice, and he definitely has it figured out with this one. This is awesome. So to my knowledge, these are the factory brakes on it. The bike only has 8,400 miles on it, so I'd have to imagine these are more than likely the factory brakes, and they work pretty well for, you know, brakes that are what, 4 years old and have 8,000 miles on. They stop fairly well. They're definitely good enough for the size of this bike. You know, I don't think that you need anything crazy with this, and obviously if you were planning on tracking this bike, you'd already be upgrading all that stuff anyways, along with the suspension and everything else that you'd be upgrading. But as far as just a, you know, ride around, have a good time, have some fun kind of bike, and maybe the occasional track day, you know, the brakes are going to do the trick, and you shouldn't have any issue with this bike. I really wanted to hit some twisties, but unfortunately there really isn't much for twisty roads in this area. This was the one road that I was planning on kind of doing a few turns in, but there's just so many people on it right now, I can't. So kind of getting back to the riding position, so another thing that I like is that these pegs, as far as I know, they are the factory pegs. They look like the factory pegs. I really like that they're nice and wide. You know, the issue with some bikes is that the pegs are just so narrow. These ones are nice and wide. They're great with the rear brake control for your foot and the shifter lever for your foot. Like, those tie in quite wonderfully. Makes it nice and easy to shift. Now, I'm only wearing a pair of Vans right now. I'm not wearing my typical boots that I ride with. Not sure how they would be with boots, but with sneakers and everything, they work pretty well. Rev matching is very simple. We've been riding this bike for about, I don't know, 15 minutes, and it's fairly simple. A lot of steering feedback with this thing. I mean, I'm wiggling my butt like a girl at the club on a Friday night right now, just turning the handlebars ever so slightly. Definitely a lot of feedback with the steering, which is really great for, like, if you had to do any quick maneuvering or anything like that. And just in general, when you're riding, I really, with my cars and my bike and everything else, I really like to be able to feel the road as much as possible, and this definitely makes it possible. Very easy to balance on too. Not bad. I didn't even get to open it up all the way. I only got to like 1400. All right, so coming from about 70 miles an hour. The engine braking, and here come the brakes. They definitely do their job, as you would hope. Oh, that sounds good. Oh man, it's too funny. Ooh, got a little poppy there. Second gear, 40 mile an hour pull. Chance to open up here. Alright, and there we go. Oh yeah. She scoots. Woo! Shohabe, you got yourself a little rocket. You know, I was skeptical on the back roads, but let me tell you, this thing's got some juice. So just so you can get an idea on the gearing, about 70 miles an hour in 6th gear at what looks like 6,000 RPMs, just a little bit above. Ooh. Oh, throttle was a little touchy on that one. Oh, this is smooth. And my riding of this right now, just because I don't know the bike, I'm not even doing this thing justice. Alright, so we're just going to do a quick 0 to whatever the heck we hit. Alright, and I'm going to try to launch the best I can. Here we go. Terrible launch, but here we go. So this is my first R6 I've ever ridden. I've ridden a 600 before. I had a CBR F3, which didn't even hold a flame to this thing. That was a carbureted model from the late 90s. This is obviously about 17 years older. Sorry. And this one's about 17 years newer. Fuel injected, and yeah, it's got the beans. It's got the go, kid. Oh man, I really want to open it up again. It's addicting. Oh, okay, that was open throttle. That was wide open. I did not go wide open through first. Only reason being is I'm very nervous about this bike lifting. I know the R6s are notorious as torque and wheelie machines, and by no means do I want to put this bike up in the air. I am not a wheelie guy whatsoever. I do not like wheelies. I don't wheelie. I've never wheelied. Only accidentally once or twice. So I'm really trying not to get this bike up in the air, because the last thing I want to do is wreck this gorgeous bike. That would not be a good day, especially I'm in shorts today. It was just too hot to wear jeans and my jacket. It was just way too hot. But wow, does this thing fly? Holy cow. So earlier in the video I had mentioned that the throttle, I don't know if I said it wasn't touchy or like it was, you know, it was, I don't know what exactly the phrasing I used for it, but I had said, oh, like it's really not that bad in the lower gears. Yes, that is, that part of the statement is still very true. However, is the throttle touchy? I don't really want to use the word touchy. I should use the word is responsive, and the throttle is extremely responsive. It's absolutely awesome. So now that we got all that out of the way, pretty much covered everything except for just kind of, we got 2 things left. As far as the first bike, what do I think? And lastly, just an overall recap of the bike in general. Gonna be kind of mashed together. My final take on the bike and whether or not I would recommend it for a first rider. So I'm gonna be honest, it's not usually that I'm gonna be honest, it's not usual that I recommend a larger bike or a torquey bike like this as a first bike, but I would say that I wouldn't recommend it, but I'd say like it's easily doable. I mean, you can learn on a 1299 Panigale, you know, in all honesty. I mean, you can learn on any bike, but as far as like, is this too much of a bike, I guess I should say, is this too much of a bike for a new rider? Yes and no. I'll tell you why. Yes, it is extremely torquey. Yes, it has a lot of power. Yes, it's very fast. Yes, it can be a lot for somebody that's never had this kind of power before. However, it is very manageable. This power is very manageable. The controls on this bike are very simple and easy to learn. The comfort on this bike is great for a, you know, a crotch rocker kind of forward leaning bike. It is awesome. It gets good gas mileage. It's not super crazy to insure. You can get these for a reasonable price. So yes, I think if I had to choose between like yes or no, a good first bike, I would lean more towards the yes column, because it is a 600, you know, and it's, you know, it's a fairly practical bike. That was adorable. It's a fairly practical bike. It's simple, easy to ride. Ooh, nice Bentley. It's comfortable to ride. It's easy to control the power, and I don't know, just something about it. Just I feel relatively comfortable on the bike. I mean, granted, I've been riding for a few years now, but I could see like a new rider being like okay with this bike. So that's kind of my overall take on that. Now, I'm going to go over the last part, since we are very close to dropping the bike back off again. So overall, thought on the bike. What is my opinion on it? I love it. I think it is awesome. I think it is a lot of fun. It sounds great. It's stylish looking. They're easy as far as maintenance goes. You don't have super expensive maintenance intervals. I mean, I think doing like the belts and stuff like that are like 20K on most Jap bikes. I don't know what it is exactly on this. You're gonna have to look it up. I'm not positive. But super cheap bike to maintain, and it looks great. It rides great. It's very comfortable. It sounds amazing. Now obviously a stock one is not going to sound this good, but yeah, just overall this bike is great. I love it, love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. Unfortunately, I really didn't get to take it into a lot of turns and bends, which I'm really bummed out about, but unfortunately I picked really just not the best time to be doing this right now. Overall, I think this is an awesome bike. This was something that I was actually considering before I bought my Ducati and before I sold my CBR. I was like, I want to get an R6, or I want to get a, you know, something newer with fuel injection, and I think this would have been a good step up. However, I think what I chose was a better one. Alright, time to drop her back off with her owner. I've taken up enough of her day. Alright, so this is going to conclude my review. I want to thank Shohabe very much for letting me take this bike out. It was so much fun. If you have any comments or questions, drop them below. You can also message me on Instagram, DucatiKid848, and make sure you subscribe and keep an eye out for more future reviews, as well as check out some of my other motovlogs. There's a lot of good stuff on there. So thank you guys very much for watching, and as always, ride safe.